Inside Thursday night, how's it going? Alright, strip back, good crack, multi-trade podcast. Share the knowledge you know, help to make our sector grow. Everybody's learning from experts and the journeyman. Insights.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 10. I'm Stephen Buckley.
And I'm Keith Dellahan.
And this is Insight, the Stripped Back podcast, sponsored by Robust Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company.
Later on this episode, we have content creator, entrepreneur, and owner of Artisan Electrics, Jordan Farley, joining us on the special guest interview segment.
But before that, we've got Amy Barrett Singh joining us for the final overload segment of Season 3. Let's get into it.
The Overload segment. Now on Insight, the Stripped Back podcast.
Amy, thanks for joining myself and Keith on the final overload segment of Season 3. Really delighted to have you.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, no, we were really excited. Stephen told me a couple of weeks ago that we were able to entice you to come on. So fair play to you for coming on.
No, it's good to be asked. Thanks. I've not done anything like this for a long time, so yeah, I've been excited to have a chat with you guys.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I know myself and Keith, I think if we were put on the opposite end of it and we were the ones being asked the questions, I think we wouldn't be as confident, you know. So fair play to you for well, turning yourself onto the opposite side of it.
Yeah, well, I used to do my podcast and I found it much easier asking the questions. But yeah, I think I've kind of got used to being put on the spot now. I've done a few different things with like this and on the radio. So yeah, people must be bored of me.
That's part of it as well, isn't it? When you go on a podcast or you put yourself out there, you're kind of building your own self-confidence as well. Because I know since we've started, we've come on leaps and bounds. Like we were the stuttering buffoons at the start. So no, it's good. It's good just to put yourself out there and and build your own self-confidence, I suppose.
It really is. I remember at the beginning of mine, I'd be like sweating, like sat there sweating, like stressing, like dry mouth. Like it is stressful when you're not, you know, it's obviously something completely different. Most people aren't used to this sort of thing. So yeah.
But it's funny though, like
pros now, aren't you?
But like it's funny if you meet someone in the wholesalers, you know, you're like straight away you're able to start. You could have a half an hour to an hour's conversation with someone in a wholesaler, but when it's all staged and it's a set thing, like it just doesn't come out as good as the normal chat. Like
it's one of those things. It's I know, like even with watching your podcast, Amy, and like, you know, like when you're on site, like what Keith said, you could sit down, you could have your cup of tea and a bit of a sandwich at lunchtime, and you could talk to the painter or you could talk to the electrician that you're working with, and you know, you'd get pretty much any conversation out of it. But I'd say myself and Keith must have hours and hours of blooper reels that we could look back over, and it's just an absolute mess if we were to put it out, you know.
They're the best bits. You should have put that out as your season finale.
One day we might do it.
Your podcast was brilliant actually with the on-site. You just sitting down and cutting the can I curse?
Yeah, you know, just
cutting the shit with people. It's we really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Yeah, it was good. It was I mean, I'd not long started my Instagram when I did that, so it was just really nice to get to know you know, like other women and trades and stuff, not just obviously electricians, like all the trades. So I made some really good friends out of it that, you know, people that I meet up with now and socialise with and stuff. So yeah, it was brilliant for me.
Yeah, it's great, and I just think, like, you know, putting yourself out there and, like, you know, you're giving other people a platform to be able to, you know, express themselves and, you know, getting people interested in what other people might be doing in the trade. And what we do with pretty much all of our guests is trying to take it back a bit and, you know, give the listeners a bit of an insight into, you know, our guests' background and, you know, their their youth even and their school years. And I was just wondering if you could take it back a little bit for our listeners and, explain a bit, what were you like growing up? What was your school life like? And maybe what was your aspirations when you were leaving school?
When I was at like primary school, I absolutely loved it. I wasn't one of these kids that always knew what I wanted to do when I was older. I never used to talk about that. I did love school, like the social side of it. When I got into secondary school, I didn't really enjoy it. I've got terrible concentration issues. So my mind wanders. I rarely watch telly because I really struggle to concentrate on something and take it in. I like reading, but I'll read the same, sometimes I'll read the same 10 pages over and over till it's actually gone in. So yeah, I think as through my teenage years, I didn't enjoy school. I did all right at school. I came out, did my exams, and I did okay. But still, when I left school, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And if I'm honest, like I really didn't take life that seriously. I was never thinking at 16, 17, like, oh, what am I going to do? Where do I want to be when I'm like 40, 50 or whatever? I was just interested in going out. Like I just used to go out with my mates. I used to, loads of holidays. Like my passion is traveling, and all I wanted to do was go to as many places as I could. And yeah, I've been quite lucky with that. I've done a fair bit of traveling. And then yeah, I suppose as you hit sort of, I don't know, as I was getting to my late 20s, probably when I started my training, that's when I started to think, right, now you know what you want to do. Because back at school, I never saw this as an option for me. It was, I think because you don't see women working in trades that much. Well, you do now, but back then, imagine you like never saw it. Like I never saw a women in trade. It was like it wasn't even an option at all. No one mentioned it. So I think that's part of my thing now, just trying to be visible, just being a normal girl, like normal woman, just visible, just being a being a tradie and living a normal life. And yeah, I only realised what I wanted to do when I was like in my late 20s. So
I think it's one of those things as well, Amy, that if you get to a stage in your your late teens when you're coming out of school and you're not too sure about what you want to do with the rest of your life, there is no harm, and people need to realize that there is no harm with the going and experiencing the world or experiencing life, or just trying out different things. And eventually then you reach a point then in your life where you know what's right for you, or you know what avenue you need to go down, and gaining those bits of experience is just like build up that extra bit of armor on you to realize down the road what you're actually capable of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just think it's a lot to expect from like essentially someone who's just sort of coming out of being a child to know what they want to do with the next however many years of your life. Like, you being a child and stuff is all about having fun and stuff. And for me, that just continued for a little while. And you're right, there's loads of things you need to experience in the world, and why not do it when you're, young and you don't have responsibilities and stuff.
It's like what you said about going through school and not maybe having that career guidance, especially maybe being a female in school. Do you think there could have been anything, better set up for especially females going through the second, your secondary school cycle that could have, kind of made your decision up a little bit earlier before you left school?
Oh, definitely. I think, to be honest, like, I think a lot of the education system is so like backward and like 40 years ago. I've worked in schools. That's what I did before I did this. And just a lot of the education system, I think, is all wrong now. Like there should be, there's too many kids that aren't academic or are academic, but have different issues, concentration or behavior or whatever, but they excel in other areas. So why aren't these kids pushed into things, or invited into things that are going to benefit their future, than making them all kids are different, all people are different. Why are we forcing them into trying to force all these kids into the same box and you expect the same outcome. It's not going to happen, is it? So I think
No.
just other options being available through your teenage years. But for me, for like women in trades, I think women in trades being visible at even younger age. I'm talking like primary school age. But yeah, as you're going through secondary, you know, when you're picking options and stuff, there's got to be other options. Like this pushing kids into going to university, like it's the be all and end all, is just not the one, is it? It's crazy.
No. No, like even to the point maybe where the likes of the schools would invite someone like yourself to come in, you know, and have a conversation with the classroom. Do you know what I mean? Simple things like that. Like we remember going through school and you never got a visit from, you know, anybody outside the, I suppose, the teaching faculty. Like you never met anybody. The most we ever learned was maybe going to a football match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was literally just trying to get. That was literally just trying to get out of school. Do you know what I mean? So
They were putting the rest of your career in the hands of, I think it was like a computer algorithm at the time where they used to bring people in and they used to get you sitting in front of a computer and you'd be typing and you'd be answering questions in, and then at the end of it, you know, it'd tell you that you're going to be a jockey or something, you know what I mean, after you left school.
that's because they put in our height, I'd say.
It's so funny. I was having this conversation with one of my friends the other day. She actually is I don't know what you call it. I don't know what you call the job title. I don't know. She's like managing director of Sparks magazine, and she was saying that she went through that at school, that this computer thing, and it came out with she should be a history teacher. She had absolutely no no want or desire to be a history teacher. She didn't really, you know, care to be a teacher at all. But yeah, it's just it's crazy, isn't it?
Great system.
It's so old school, like yeah.
Yeah. Did was there anybody in your family, Amy, that like might have even given you a bit of an insight into the trade, that sort of maybe, you know, put some sort of seed into the back of your mind that while you were in your late 20s, you were able to sort of tap into that then and decide that's something you wanted to get into?
Yeah, so both my brothers are electricians. So yeah, my older brother, he had started his training when we were all still living at home, you know, as kids, and then yeah, when my younger brother left school, so he's a prime example. He didn't do well at school. He had absolutely no interest at school. I don't even know what he left school with, you know, sort of grade wise. And now he's running a really big, really successful company down in London. As is my other brother, to be fair. They're both doing really well. But yeah, with them doing it and me sort of, you know, always hearing a lot about it and basically seeing how much money they made, I was like, I'm going to get me some of that. And yeah, I'll not look back.
Yeah, and I suppose going in later on or not going the conventional route, how did you find navigating through the training?
Do you know what? It was okay. Like the college that I went to, I wouldn't rate it if I'm honest, but I think across the country they've got problems with sort of tutors and teaching staff in general, like trying to keep them basically. Well, it's not a job that I would want to do after being in college as an adult and experiencing it. Like the students are making it hard work for them. So you know, I'm not surprised they don't stay. But it was hard doing it my route. I don't know whether it was because I was older or because I was female, but I struggled to get that first job. I really, really did. So I did level 2, level 3 full time at college, which is basically like 2 days a week, two and a bit days a week, and could not find a job for those whole 2 years. I couldn't find anyone, even someone like I was trying to get even unpaid experience. Nothing. So I left. So on my last week of college, I managed to land a job with a company as a mate. And yeah, so I did that for a little while, just gain on-site experience. But then at that point, it's terrifying because you've gone through college and you're like, oh, I've done college, you know, I've done really well. But then you turn up at your first day and you're like, oh shit, I know
Back
nothing.
to square
I
one.
know absolutely nothing. Like, and you're like, yeah, literally back to square one. You're learning, but I think with being that bit older, and I don't know if I felt like because of being a woman, like I had to prove myself that bit more. I was quite ambitious. I wanted to know everything. I really like pushed myself, and I feel like I moved around four different companies in the first, I want to say 3 years, in different areas, just because I wanted to gain that experience as quickly as I
Yeah.
could, and yeah, and I did.
Yeah, we've got that now a bit, and we've only actually, talked about it recently, myself and Keith, about how important it is for apprentices to look out for themselves during their apprenticeship or their training program, and in order to, go to where they need to go in order to get the experience that they need to get, albeit maybe domestic or a bit of industrial, or if it's testing and certification.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like doing a bit of on-site experience along with your training, how valuable did you think it was for you in order to get that bit of a mix in to now have that vast array of experience further on in your career compared to if you had to just maybe stuck to one company and only learned one sector, I guess?
I mean, for me, it was super valuable. Like, first of all, just getting a job and being out there, I thought, oh, this is great. But then I suppose the more that you do, because it was a big company, so I wasn't working with the same electrician all the time, you start to realize how differently people work, the different areas
Hmm.
that you can learn, the different techniques and ways that you can do stuff. Also, like, some people are more willing to spend that bit of time with you teaching or explaining things than others. And then you start to realize, okay, I've got a lot more to learn here. And so I did maybe, I don't know, maybe a year with that company, and I thought, I need to move on, do something else. So I went from, so that was a lot of like commercial stuff. I didn't do any domestic at all with them. Then I moved on to a company that were doing just new builds, and that is actually really good. Like, I would advise anyone who's just starting out, if you're going to go into domestic, to do new builds, because although it's boring and repetitive, I think it's just exactly what you need at the beginning, don't you think? To perfect the
Yeah.
basics,
Yeah.
to even stupid things like to learn like the makeup of a house, like how a house is put together and
Yeah.
made for future
That's
reference
true.
when you're
Yeah.
working in domestic. Um, and you just do the same stuff over and over, don't you? And so you find your own techniques and your own ways of doing this, better or quicker or how, whatever. And I just think, yeah, so I did that for 4 months. That was great, although it was also awful because it was peak winter, like -5 every day, and I was dying. But, you've got to suffer, you've got to suffer these sort of experiences to appreciate the good stuff in the future, haven't you? So it was,
Yeah,
yeah, it was
look,
good.
I think, Amy, like it's one of those things that you just mentioned there. It's like, the makeup of a house, like, so like the anatomy of a house
Yeah,
in a sense. And myself and Keith were only talking about this, I think, just before you came on, and we were talking about, because I come from maintenance, commercial background, and Keith's in the domestic end of it, and we were talking about, like, if I was to go in and do a bit of even fault finding in a domestic setting, knowing where the cables are ran, or
yeah,
knowing how the cables are ran can save you so much more time, and if like Keith, like if he was coming out to one of, like the big commercial jobs, I'd know how the cables are ran in one of those settings, and it's just having that extra little bit of, an insight into what's behind the walls can save an electrician so much time, like on a job.
yeah.
I've had to ring you loads of times.
Yeah, well, you might not get an answer out of me though. That's the only thing.
No, that's it. That's it. And come here, having dipped your toes in, the different sectors, what would you say is your favorite area to work in?
Do you know what? I like the variety of our job. I like that I can do a bit of everything. I mean, I don't do like crazy big commercial jobs on my own. I do a lot of lighting upgrades. It's nice work. I think it's kind of
Yeah.
easy money. Um, I really enjoy domestic. I know there's a lot of people that don't like domestic. And my favourite part of domestic is just jobbing. Like, and I do really well where I live, just doing all the little jobs because people don't want to do it. Every day I'll get a customer that'll say to me, "Oh, thanks for coming out. I know it's only a small job, but I couldn't get anybody to do it." That's fine because I'll book like 6 of them in a day, and I make such good money. People are like, "Oh, I can't be bothered," but when I work out how much, most of my work's very local. When I work out how much time I'm actually spending on the tools in a day to earn a really good day, it's like 2 hours if you took out the driving. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really don't mind. Like I do well with that. But then like the next day I could be doing, like last week I did a local dentist practice, so I upgraded all their lights to LED. It's something different, isn't it? It's I like the variety of it. So next week 2 weeks I'm doing a rewire, which actually I don't enjoy it as much anymore, just because I don't know, getting old, knees.
You're too used to the LED upgrades now.
Oh, I love an LED upgrade.
Too used to the easy money.
But look, obviously, like you done your training and you got your qualification in the end. And was it always your goal, Amy, to get out on your own and just start earning for yourself rather than, making money for somebody else?
Do you know what? It wasn't something I'd thought about a lot. I mean, I was taking like small steps. I had small goals, like let's get through college, let's get qualified, let's get experience in these areas. And then I was working for a domestic company, and I kept thinking, I could, like when you start building confidence and you're being sent to these jobs, and then I started thinking, I could do this on my own. Like I was with another electrician, but I was thinking if I turned up to this job, I'd easily do this on my own. Like how much would I price this? Like, oh God, I'm getting paid, £4, and I could be earning like 400 quid. So those thoughts started to go through my head. And then I did try smart homes for a little bit, and that wasn't really for me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. But that's at that point I decided to go on my own. And I don't know, I quit my job, and then I spent like a day at home, like shitting myself, like, oh, was that the right thing to do? Like what, like, can I do this? And honestly, I've not looked back. Like the first, like you take on every job at the beginning because you're terrified. Like you answer every call, you say yes to everything, even if you don't want to do it, if it's a really crap job, or, you take every job on, you work 7 days a week if you have to, because you're terrified to say no in case it all stops. Like you think you're going to say no once and your phone's going to stop ringing. But it just gets better and better. And I didn't advertise for the first sort of year, and it was just all my work was like word of mouth and stuff. I did sub actually, to some companies, from guys that I've met on Instagram actually. Which really helped me. So yeah, between that and then started, building up my own client base, I've always been busy.
Yeah, well, like we've noticed through your social media that you've got to work with a lot of the notable Sparkies over in the UK. Do you find it beneficial getting to get hands on with the likes of those guys and girls, I suppose, and learning from their different ways of doing the jobs?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I started working with Nick Bundy, and he actually is the person who encouraged me to start filming and do the podcast and stuff. And he was great. He gave me a lot of confidence. He was really supportive. And then I started working with like Ricky Holmes at RJ Electrical, and he was great too. Like he let me film on his jobs. And he always, encouraged me and supported me. And then, like obviously Gina, the daughter, we used to work together, and that was just, they were like dream jobs as well, because that was just such a laugh, as well as working, It was fun, and I learned a lot from her as well. And I mean, one account I will say, who I absolutely could not live without now, is Till Electrical. So Jason Till, I don't know if you know him. He is such a legend. I ask him so much. I'm not gonna lie. Like he helps me all the time, and I suppose some stuff I ask him, in the back of my head, I know the answer, but I want him to confirm it and go, yeah, that's right. Like I've been on the phone to him twice today. He always picks up the phone to me. He never makes me feel stupid. He does teaching as well. He does 2 days of teaching, and he's the perfect teacher. He's got so much patience. And yeah, he did a job with me that I needed help on some commercial testing a couple of weeks ago. He's just, yeah, absolutely brilliant. And Instagram has been the best for that, for meeting people that are willing to help you and share ideas and tips and give advice. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, it's great. I think like even, you know, when you look at YouTube videos, and like I'd be the type of person that would, you know, need to see something for it to stick in my mind, to remember it. I was always like that in college, and I've mentioned it a lot of times on the podcast, and you know, even seeing some of the videos that you've done, even with like, you know, like David Savory and stuff like that, and you're watching these, you know, really like in depth, like bit of content where even like David like is very well of explaining, like, you know, like
He's
testing
so
videos
good.
and stuff.
He's so good.
He sticks with you.
Yeah, he gave me a whole day of his time. You know, it's unbelievable. Like I was so grateful. He spent a whole day testing with me and doing various bits, and we filmed it. And I just think people are so giving, aren't they? Like, for all the, you know, negative comments that you might get on your videos or whatever your content and stuff on social media, you know, you've got 100 people that are, you know, willing to go above and beyond to help you out and do nice things for you. So I'm super grateful. Yeah, I learned a lot from David.
It's a great network of people that you have there, because I know myself and Stephen, we do follow you all from afar, and you know, we feel like we're part of the video sometimes, but over here in Ireland we don't seem to have the same kind of network of people that want to help each other. It's kind of a like I don't know what the mentality would be like. It's basically, if you're asking someone, you know, how to do something, you feel a bit stupid. And you're kind of made to be, or to feel a bit stupid, you know. But
that's that bad.
it's great what you have going on, and we do follow Nick as well. Nick puts out great stuff as well, so fair play to you for doing that. Anyways,
yeah, like the UK has been a massive trailblazing community over there that has just taken off tenfold in regards to the trade community that has been happening in every other, you know, sector of work. You know, like you see like influencers with makeup and, you know, bags and clothes and all that. Now it's like the trade industry is nearly up there with that, like with everybody with their Snickers, you know, and they're putting up their Nipex and their, you know, you've got what type of lights you're using and everything like that. It's created a whole new monster now where everybody just wants a piece of it, you know what I mean? And
what type of cleaning wipes you want to use?
Yeah. It's just it's unreal, isn't it?
It is crazy actually when you look at it, all the, you know, brand deals and advertising and stuff. But that's just the way things have gone. It's like, it's not just in construction and stuff, is it? It's everything. It's in every area and every industry. So
what inspired you to start your own I suppose podcast and YouTube channel?
It was just like people like Nick, you know, chatting with him and a few other people on Instagram, and I was just trying to, you know, like I said earlier, just be like visible, just be a normal woman, trying to encourage other girls into this, you know, just to be seen basically. Because when like we talked about earlier, like when I look back at my education and stuff, you know, this didn't seem like an option because I never saw it anywhere. I never, you know, I didn't see it anywhere, and so I just thought, oh, give it a go. I actually took quite a lot of persuading to start it off, because it is terrifying, isn't it, when you're not used to it. And yeah, I just gained confidence with it, I suppose. I'm not really like confident on camera, but I tried to just think of it. Oh, I was just having a chat with another trader. We just have a laugh, and I think it was great because they were just sharing your experiences. Then encouraged like a lot of girls to get in touch with myself and all the different tradies that were coming on. It just starts conversations, doesn't it, and encourages it. You know, it's encouraged. I've had lots of messages about girls saying, "Oh, you've encouraged me to do this and that," and it's great. It's what we started out to do.
Brilliant.
And you know, being able to network with all those other girls that would have, wanted to jump on with you and talk to you? Did it paint a picture for you in a sense of, maybe some sort of stigmas or bias that you might have, experienced when, you went out on your own? Have you ever, shared any stories with other females that you would think, the world needs to move on a bit here because they're still way behind here when you're talking about females within the trade?
I mean, yeah, the girls shared some horror stories, and they still do on Instagram. Like there's it seems crazy to me, but there's like a whole load of guys that I don't know why they've got a problem with women doing this job. And I get people telling me, but it's a man's world, it's blah blah blah, and I'm just like, I'll bore off. But I think like things on site have improved definitely, for girls, like with toilet situations and stuff like that. I think when I've talked with the other tradie girls, we generally have the same things that we said put us off from doing it. Like being the only girl in the class, that's not happening anymore, because every year, like year on year, there's more girls enrolling. So that's good. Like I do a lot of work with colleges, through some that I'm directly in contact with around my local area, and then some through Sparks magazine. And generally, like there's I don't know the number. I did know the percentage, can't think, but there's more, girls coming into this. But yeah, most of the girls' experiences are the same. Like the same things put them off. They have the same issues at college, but things are improving. On site things are improving, and I just think with like when you turn up to jobs now, things are improving. Like customers are, because we're more seen now, it's more becoming more normal. We don't even get sort of customers saying, "Oh, you're a woman. What made you want to do this?" You get the same questions every time, don't you? But yeah, it's becoming more of the norm now, which is good.
Yeah, I think it even then just stems then onto, the likes of your Instagram pages or your, even TikTok, when, you see, if it was the likes of myself or Keith sticking up a bit of content, even if there was something slightly wrong with it, you wouldn't get as many people jumping onto it as you would if the likes of yourself or,
Definitely, yeah.
Els Electrical or Kimmy or something had put it up. Like, they just seem to 10 times want to stick it down your neck, like in the sense of that is wrong, like,
Well, the internet's full of trolls and
Pe-
negativity. Like there's always going to be someone looking to chop you down.
People love it.
Have you found that as well?
Yeah, people absolutely love it. And at the beginning, like when I started my podcast and the YouTube, it was almost like good for my confidence and mental health, but then bad because it gave me confidence doing it. Like I was like, oh God, like I'm really proud of done this. Like I really pushed myself out of my comfort zone. But then I'd upload a video and then I'd get severe anxiety. Like I'd sit there watching, refreshing the video, looking for the comments, and I started to think, oh, what am I doing? Like this is it's not good for me. But you have to, I think you just become tougher, like over time, like on the job, like and with the social media stuff, you just become tougher. Like you don't care. Like I kind of now, like you've just said, that people are gonna pick at these tiny things, and you've just got to not give a shit. Like I don't care. Like do you know what I mean? Like it's my job. I'm happy with it. My customer's happy with it. I've been paid. What's it got to do with you? That's kind of my attitude now, because you get sick of hearing like, oh, you should have put that 2 mil to the left, or you know what I mean? Like you get crazy stuff on there, and yeah, all the girls get it, but yeah, it's what it is, isn't it?
I even had it a couple of weeks ago, where a lad contacted me and said you can't spell. I put labels on a fuse board and I spelled kitchen wrong, like you know what I mean. Steve-O had to hold me back, so he did.
Oh
I said it's
God.
one of those IKEA kitchens.
With a funny name.
Yeah, Amy, obviously you're self-employed, but you're predominantly working on your own. You've worked on sites before, you've subbed out, like you've worked with other companies. Like, do you find that, the industry has come forward in a sense in regards to promoting a safe workplace for women within it right now?
There still needs to be changes, but I do think things are improving. Like, I think men are more aware, and I think maybe women are less afraid to say something if something's bothering them. I know a lot of the women that I talk to on social media over the last couple of years have really sort of decided, right, enough's enough. Like banter's banter, but women aren't accepting it anymore when men are taking it too far. And that's good, because until something's done or said, it will continue, won't it? So
No, that's true. That's true. And come here, even for yourself, in terms of everything that you've got going on with I suppose, the social media side of it and the content creating, how do you find time to balance all of that out with your work life and your own personal life?
I don't. I went to bed at half two last night. Like, it's that thing, isn't it? Like, I didn't want to work a 9 till 5, so I went self-employed. Now I work 24/7. It's like that, isn't it? Like, some days, I mean, it's good because some days, like today, I can go, right, I'm going to do a little job and then I'm going to go out with my friends and their kids because the kids are off school. So, I can do what I want, to an extent. But yeah, like
You still end up on a podcast with us.
yeah, I spend my evenings on this, but I don't
Sucker
know.
for punishment.
It's like, life is busy. Like, I suppose when I was employed, I didn't really think about it. Like, I was recording a lot more, and because in the evenings then you don't have anything to do, because once you drive off from the job, you forget about the job, don't you? It's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
But now, running the business by myself, and the business is growing at the minute. I've got a property maintenance side of the business, which I only recently started, but it's going really well. I've got so much content on my phone, stuff that I've recorded and videos that I need to put together, but I just have not had time. You have to prioritize, don't you? Like, you get home, your priorities are your invoicing, obviously. Then it's looking at the next jobs, ordering materials. There's always something to do. So yeah, social media's had to take a little bit of a backseat. But yeah, I'll keep saying I really want to get back into it, but realistically, it is hard to fit everything in.
There's only so many hours in the day.
That's it. And then you have quiet times, and then you have days like yesterday where I was determined to get my to-do list done, and I ended up going to bed at like 2:30. So it's up and down, isn't it? I wouldn't have it any other way. That's not me complaining. It would be a very, very, very last option for me to get a job again. I absolutely adore self-employed life.
We threw a story up on Instagram during the week, just letting people know, obviously, reminding people that we had you on, and asking people if they wanted to share a couple of questions in. And you've actually touched on a few pointers there throughout the interview regarding what people wanted to know about, which is great. But one of them was, do you envisage the podcast coming back full time for yourself at any stage?
Full time, I don't know. I would love to. I really, really would. But fair play to you. I find it hard to keep it that regular. And yeah, I think I would really struggle at the minute. Maybe one day in the future, when I've built the business up and I am on a beach somewhere, running it from there. Just but yeah, I don't know. I would love to, but small steps. I need to start just posting stuff on Instagram again first, and work my way up to it. I really want to get back into recording stuff on YouTube, but like on-site videos, it's just time, isn't it? I book a job in, I think, oh, that'll be a perfect one to film. And then I end up that by the time that day comes round, I've got 4 jobs booked in. I'm thinking I'm never going to have time to do that. You know how many times I've started a day in the life video, and by like 10 o'clock, I'm like, that's out the window. I've not got time. Like, it's too chaotic. So I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. You have to kind of prioritize one thing or the other, don't you? It's very hard to, make a hybrid of the both, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
I suppose one of the last questions then, what a bit of advice, I suppose, would you give to any female apprentice or trainee out there that might feel like the role is not for them starting out?
What do you mean? They're in their training doing it, or they've just finished and started work and now they're thinking, oh God, like regretting it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I think at some point everybody goes through that. Like I went through that definitely at the beginning. Within, I think it was, I won't go through the whole story, but the first company I worked for was awful. Like looking back now, oh my God, this, I can't believe the stuff that they got away with. Honestly, if I could go back in time, it would be very different. If I was this person now, but
Yeah.
it's I think everybody goes through that. I went through it. I was probably about 8-10 weeks in. I was like, I fully regret it. I've wasted all that money on training, all that time and stuff. But you know, you go through. Everybody's going to go through difficult things. Doesn't matter what career choice you make, but it gets better. Just talk to people, share your experiences, get advice. You're good. You'll be all right. It's worth it.
That's a great bit of advice. And Kabir, anybody looking to find you online, where do they go to get you?
At Amy the Sparky on Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me at the minute because I've not got time for anything else.
No, look, we'll stick that into the show notes anyway, Amy. And I guess like the most important question of the whole interview and what everybody waits for is the Spotify song choice question. And we ask each guest to add one song to the Spotify song choice. And I was wondering, what would your song be?
My absolute favourite song in the world, I've got a tattoo dedicated to this, is Zombie by the Cranberries.
Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's actually
Classic.
my daughter and my daughter Adriana and my son Elliot, they go around singing that all the time now because I played it once in the car and it's just in their head.
Any day of the week, blasting that in your van is just, feel good.
Listen, Amy, great choice, and can't wait to stick that onto the playlist. And look, myself and Keith, we wish you the best for the rest of 2024 and the rest of your career. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. It hasn't disappointed us at all.
Oh, absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. It's good to talk to you both.
No problem at all. And look, I guess now we're going to play you out to your song choice. Take it easy.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, Amy. That was great having that chat with Amy.
Yeah, definitely didn't let us down for the final overload segment of season 3. It's always one of those things, isn't it, where you get a fellow podcaster on and you can share tips and tricks with them and you can let them know how much effort we're putting in the background and they can relate to it.
Yeah, no, definitely beneficial having someone like Amy on, and also the fact that she's a fellow Sparky as well. So getting her tips and tricks on the industry as well was brilliant.
Yeah, it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone in a sense, and I guess we'll just try and keep the ball rolling on this episode. And we've got Jordan Farley joining us now for the guest interview segment, so let's get into it.
Yep.
The guest interview segment, now on Insight, the Stripped Back podcast.
Jordan, thanks for taking the time to jump on the final episode of season 3 with myself and Keith. We really appreciate it.
final episode. What a privilege. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we kept the best to last. It's really looking forward to having yourself on, because we're kind of in the same industry, maybe not at quite the same standard, but you're a good benchmark for the rest of us to try and get to. So fair play to you.
Well, it's very nice of you to say. Nobody's perfect, but all we can do is try our best, right? And try and make every day slightly better than the previous.
Yeah, 100%. And look, Jordan, like we do with all of our guests, we try to take it back a bit. We go back as far as possible, I guess. And for our listeners who might not have heard of you, which probably is very little, but could you tell us a little bit about your early life, growing up, maybe a bit about what your aspirations were for your career while you were in school, and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I grew up in a city called Cambridge, just north of London. Quite well known for its university and stuff like that, and it's kind of a place where you really get pushed towards going into higher education. But I grew up in a family of electricians, so my dad was an electrician. He did his apprenticeship with his dad. My uncle was an electrician as well. My cousin's an electrician now. So a lot of electricians in the family, but believe it or not, I never wanted to be an electrician. So when people asked me when I was a kid, "Oh, are you going to work with your dad when you're older? Do you want to be a sparky like him?" I said, "No, I'll never be an electrician. Electrician's a job for idiots." Something along those lines, because I just thought that I was destined for greater things. How ironic. I don't know. I think I had it in my head that electrician, or being in the trades in general, was like, if you had more than a few brain cells to rub together, then you don't go into the trades. You go to college. You do your A levels, work towards a career or whatever in front of a desk. So I left school. I went to a good sixth form college to do A levels and studied business and archaeology, believe it or not, which I think business is just always been something that interests me. I was the kind of kid that used to sell rocks at the bottom of the garden and managed to somehow sell rocks to the neighbours. And so I've always had a bit of a business mind about me, and that interested me. But then the archaeology side of things, I think it was just that I'd always liked watching Indiana Jones, and I thought it'd be cool to see if I could dig up some treasure somewhere. And after a year into my A levels, I quickly realised that this is not the way I wanted to be heading in life. I was just heading for just a boring life, doing some desk job that I wasn't really passionate about. And to be honest as well, I kind of realised that my dad had a good thing going. He'd always been able to earn a good living and support us as a family. We'd always had good holidays. We lived in a nice house. He wasn't rich by any means, but we lived comfortably at least, and he always had plenty of work. And I guess as you get older and mature, you start to realize that that's actually a really quite a unique thing in life. There's a lot of people out there who struggle to find work. And I was, thinking, oh, maybe I'll end up in IT or something like that. But there was just no kind of clear path ahead. So that year that I spent at college, I really realized that I wasn't heading in the direction that I wanted to be. And I had a good friend of mine who said, "What are you doing? Why don't you go and do an apprenticeship with your dad?" So I ate humble pie and I said to my dad, "Hey, how do you fancy giving me an apprenticeship?" And he very kindly did. And so I quit college halfway through. College thought I was mad, because everyone was being encouraged to go on that track, that conveyor belt to go to university. And I was really bucking the trend at that time and saying, "Nah, this is not what I want. I've got a different path in mind." So yeah, trained to be a sparky with my dad.
What was that like, working with your dad?
It was great, actually. It was, yeah, he was a very patient man. And as you probably know, if you've ever had an apprentice, it takes a lot of patience to train somebody from zero. I mean, I knew a little bit. I'd helped him on the school holidays. We used to do a lot of temporary electrics for events, so like concerts and stuff in the summer. There's this venue near Cambridge where they did these summer concerts, and we used to do all the temps for those, setting up all the festoon lights and generators and power and stuff for the stage. So I used to help him in the summer with that sometimes, but it was just plugging stuff in really. And then he'd get me stripping the cables to scrap the copper in on the weekends and stuff like that. But that was about the extent of my knowledge really. So I was pretty much starting from scratch, and obviously the frustration of going from you can just crack on and get stuff done to actually having to really train someone from zero takes a lot of patience. But he was great. He was very, very patient, and he taught me so well. And slowly, because I was fairly sharp, I picked it up quickly, and I was able to, progress pretty quickly through the different stages of the apprenticeship, and then get to the point where I was able to go out on my own a bit, do my own jobs, and unfortunately, then during the last stages of my apprenticeship, my dad got really sick. And we didn't know what really was going on. He was just not well, lost a lot of weight and stuff. And then eventually we found out that he got cancer.
Sorry to hear that.
And obviously, that was just devastating. And very quickly, that was it. He was gone. So I went from, working with him every day to suddenly the business was on my shoulders and he was gone, and I was trying to figure it out on my own just based on what he taught me.
And how difficult was that to just take it all upon your own shoulders after working, I suppose, under him for so long? Do you think your interest in business helped you at that stage?
Yeah, it did for sure. Like, I'd always been interested in the business side of it as well as the electrical side, so I knew a bit, but again, it was like a really steep learning curve. And it was, I was the oldest kid. I was 20, I think, when he died, 19 or 20. My sister was a couple of years younger than my brother, was like 14. So this business was basically what kept our family going. So it was really quite a heavy load on my shoulders now. It's like, right, I've got to step up and keep this thing running for the sake of my family as well as, my dad's legacy and stuff. But again, like, he was amazing in the last weeks of his life. It was sat on his hospital bed teaching me how to do invoices and all these little things, just to figure out what I needed to do to take things over. And thanks to his good training and some hard graft, I managed to do it.
Yeah, and do you think with such a shock in your life at considerably still a young age, that was the driving factor in a sense for selling the business and actually moving on and trying to experience a bit of life for yourself by traveling?
Yeah, traveling was something that I'd always loved. In between, on holidays, I'd like to go away and explore, and that's something that we'd always enjoyed doing as a family. And then when I met my wife, which was just in this sort of year after my dad died, she was the same, so it was kind of an aspiration that we both had together, was to go and travel and do some volunteer work and stuff. And so ran the business successfully for a few years, and then we got it to a point where we didn't really need, like, it wasn't for my mum and my brother and my sister anymore. It wasn't, they didn't need it. And they were sort of able to stand on their own feet. And so the business was just for myself and my wife at that point, really. And where it was totally different to when my dad was running it. So, and it was, to be honest, it was small. It was just enough to keep us ticking over, but we had a bit of a client base, and so it was vaguely saleable. And we decided, you know what, let's go, let's kind of sell everything, and let's go and do some volunteer work and travel. which is something that we'd been wanting to do for a few years, and that's what we did.
Yeah, was there any added pressure or, anxiety around selling the business, considering that, it was your father's? Was like letting something go, or was it a weight off your shoulders letting it go?
That's a really good question. I think there was a little bit, obviously, it was sort of his legacy in a way, because he had handed it on to me, but at the same time, like I say, it would never have carried on if I hadn't been there to take it over. So I didn't feel like, I was sort of betraying him by selling it or something like that. And, from a family point of view, it was absolutely fine. I think it was a weird one because we'd already started to do some volunteer work, but just like 3 months here, 2 months there. And so we'd been working less anyway and been slowly kind of winding the business down. And then it was kind of a case of, right, we're going to go full time traveling and volunteering, and we're not going to be able to carry on the business doing that. So let's see if we can sell it. And we just happened to have a guy who I'd been doing some subcontracting for, who was actually a neighbour of mine, who just trained up as a sparky, and he was looking for a bit of a foot up, just to get started on his own. So he just bought the business for a small amount, just to kind of get him a leg up, really. And it was just enough for me to go, I've got a little bit of a nest egg to be able to start up again if I ever need to, buy some tools, get a van, and just start afresh. Because I knew that eventually we'd probably, the volunteering would last forever, and we'd find ourselves in a position where we needed to start something up again.
And Jordan, going into the traveling and the volunteering, where did it take you, and can you describe what you would have been doing whilst volunteering?
Yeah, so it was an amazing opportunity, really. We got to travel to various countries. One of the first projects that we did was out in South Africa. And yeah, I was working, it was all construction based, so it was all still doing electricianing, but working as a volunteer. And the cool thing about it was I got to work with some other really experienced electricians who were also volunteering, who were kind of leading up the teams at the start. And then as I progressed, I got to actually train, locals on how to do electrics. Some people who'd never touched electrics in their life, and others that were, learning, and I was helping them to progress in their learning. So I remember one of the first projects I did in South Africa, I worked with this Swedish guy, and he was like Swedish, ex-military guy, really, really tall, really serious. And everything had to be perfect, So the cable ties had to all be in the same direction, same spacing. You had to cut them with a pair of, those garden secateurs that you get. Like, it was before the days of having those flush cutters that you have now, the little Nipex flush cutters.
Yeah.
Back then, the way to do it was you use these secateurs because they cut the cable ties off perfectly flush. So he gave me a pair of those, and he showed me how to do it. And then if I missed one, that was it. I had to start all over again,
So that's where Artisan started anyway.
It taught me this obsession with neatness. I remember another thing where I did this board. I think it was one of the first boards that I wired up on this project. And I was really proud of it. I was like, stood back like, oh, it looks really good. And then he came over and had a look at it. And he was like, that is junk. Rip it out and start again. And it was soul destroying because I spent the whole day wiring up this board. But he was like, you can do better. Start again. So I did. And I did it neater the second time. And I never forgot that lesson. And I guess you're right. That has stayed with me all this time, and the neatness that has become kind of our trademark at Artisan has really come from those kind of key moments in my life where I worked with people who really, really took pride in their work. And that was one of the nice things on these projects, was because it was all volunteer labour, it wasn't so much about time and trying to get it done as quickly as possible. It was all about quality and making a system that will last the test of time and be easier to maintain and have less problems going on. So that enabled me to go about electrics with a different mindset, a mindset of quality over over cost or speed or whatever you might call it, and not cutting any corners, but just trying to do the absolute best that you can do.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned the experience of working over there and striving for greatness with different electricians working around you and being able to teach other locals, right from pretty much grassroots up to what you know now. And I was wondering, in a sense, did that sort of, ingrain your desire then to, when it was time to return home, to want to create what Artisan is now?
Yeah, I think it did, probably more subconsciously than anything. Like, I really enjoyed working with different people and being able to share my skills. So in the volunteer projects, I eventually got to the point where, like in the Netherlands, we were out there for 2 years and I was leading a team of up to like 30 electricians, and a lot of them were either they had a basic electrical knowledge or they had no electrical knowledge at all. And it was like, right, how do you teach someone how to install cables neatly? How do you teach someone how to do patch panels? We did a lot of data on that project, so do patch panels neatly. And you just teach them one thing, but you teach them to do it really, really perfectly over and over again. So I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed kind of leading a team and being able to stand back at the end of the day and look at the work that we'd accomplished as a team and go, wow, this is amazing. We've done an amazing job here. And I think when that project came to an end and we then went back to the UK and started Artisan Electrics, I brought those lessons with me for sure, and the passion for teaching, even if I didn't necessarily start the YouTube channel with any particular goal in mind. I guess it was just my inner passion for sharing my skills and knowledge that came out in that, and that's where the YouTube channel started to gain traction.
And with Artisan, did you envisage it being what it is today? Did you think that it would be such a big thing, social media wise, and I suppose with the high end work that you do, did you envisage that's where we're gonna end up, or was that just like a gradual kind of, I suppose, growth?
With the social media side, I never imagined it would become what it has today. I always had this vision of, wouldn't it be nice to have a little company and a fleet of vans with my brand on and stuff. So that's something that still, like, every time I see the vans all lined up, gives me a little sense of pride. But the social media side, I never even considered it really. I mean, I'd always loved YouTube, and the other social media channels I was not really that involved in, but it just kind of grew slowly out of nowhere and sort of took over my life, really.
Yeah, and with social media, and everybody knows with the likes of TikTok and Instagram and even Facebook, it comes with a lot of negativity as well as positivity. And do you feel like having such an iconic name, in a sense, now Artisan is well known across the industry online, has it impacted your reputation in a positive way, but also have you found it impacting you quite negatively as well?
Yeah, the power of social media is amazing. And for me, it's sort of a love-hate thing sometimes. Like, it's been amazing in a positive way in that it's helped us to grow our business to where it is today. I mean, a lot, the vast majority of the work that we get comes from people who find us on YouTube now. It's created a separate revenue stream for us as well. We've got to work with some amazing brands that we've partnered with as sponsors, and even like our staff. Most of our staff, they come to us because they watch us on YouTube and they aspire to work for us. So it's an amazing thing from that point of view. And also the other thing that is amazing, which I don't always realize but hits me every so often, is just actually the amount of people that we have affected for the good, you know. When you're just in front of a camera and you're just talking to camera, it's just you and the camera, you kind of can forget how many people are watching these videos on the other side. And for me, like, we just hit 250,000 subscribers, for example, which is kind of a mind-blowing number when you think how many football stadiums is that, you know, of people who've actually clicked a button to say they want to subscribe to watch our videos. It's nuts. But that is, again, it's like a mind-blowing number. It's hard to imagine. But then when you go to like an event, like I've been, you know, to quite a few events over the last year or so, and people, you know, individuals come up to you and they say how your videos have affected their lives. Like, your videos have inspired me to become an electrician or to do better work, or I've learned this because of your videos. That for me is when it really hits home, because it's like, wow, it's not just numbers. We're actually affecting people's lives for the better. So that's something that I'm really proud of. And I guess it brings, you know, that comes across from the volunteering that I've done and stuff, is the power of, you know, when you're volunteering, you're working with a few people, you can help a few people. But then with video, you can reach thousands of people and actually affect them in a positive way. So that's something really positive. And obviously it has helped me to build kind of a reputation in the industry. From the negative side as well, though, is that everyone's eyes are on you. So when stuff goes bad, you know, people follow that as well, and you know, it can be a bit of a roller coaster running a business. So, you know, we've been through some ups and downs, and I've taken the stance of just being open and honest about things, because I think it's real. So when things aren't going perfect, I'll share that as well. I mean, I do think I overshare sometimes. My wife says that to me. She's like, you share too much. And I have to be a bit careful about that. But I feel like to be honest and to show that it's real and you're not just putting across this fake image, you've got to show what happens, warts and all, right? And we're not perfect. We make mistakes. Sometimes things don't go great as a business and you learn from them. And I try and share that as well, because I think that's easier to relate to and it's more real. But then that brings with it, you know, a whole other can of worms. And there's haters out there. There's keyboard warriors that, you know, sometimes can get inside your head. So that side of things can be challenging too. But I've kind of learned to just let that wash over me, and it's sort of like water off a duck's back now most of the time. Every so often it might get to me if I'm having a bad day, but usually it is what it is. And you just got to focus on the vast majority, which is really positive, that comes from it, and the support that we get.
Yeah, no, one thing I definitely like about watching the video, like I watch, as Stephen, he keeps hearing me harp on about the videos, but I watch it weekly, religiously, like you say on the videos, like grab your cup of tea and come along for the ride or whatever. But yeah, we'd be watching away, and you know, one of your videos might say, oh, what have I done, or this has gone wrong. Like my wife would look at me, Keith, don't look at it, please don't look at it. But you'd explain to her, like, you have to watch the good with the bad. Like, it's not all going to be, you know, fairy tale stuff where everything works out, like, you know what I mean? And like you said, when you put your videos up there, it's all part of learning as well. Like, so there's plenty of tips and tricks that you've put up on those videos that I've used, you know, since I've watched them. Like, you know what I mean? It's basically free learning.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the best bit of content that I watched you do was the electric van in France. I think that was one of the best bit of production quality content that I've seen put out there, and I was just wondering what was that experience like?
It was just mad, that trip. I mean, we basically got the most rubbish electric van in the world, and I got it because it was a super cheap deal on a lease, and I'd been wanting an electric van, and it was a transporter. It was a VW transporter. You think it's a good van, you know, like everyone wants one of those, right? But it was this ABTE thing, so they'd ripped out the diesel engine and they'd converted it to electric, basically, and it had like on paper 80-mile range, but in reality, like on a cold day, you'd do well to get like 30-40 miles out of it. And most of the time I just used it to commute to the office and back, or pop out and do little jobs, because I was not really on the tools that much then. I was sort of mostly in the office, so it was fine. But then we decided to do this challenge where we would really put it to the test, and we'd drive it from Big Ben to the Eiffel Tower and see, like, could we make it? How many charges would it take? How much would it cost? And we planned this whole like saga of how to get there. We had like 2 cameramen, we had the whole crew. My wife came. It was just like, it was a proper fun trip, but it was a complete nightmare because literally everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And it made for a very entertaining video. But there was a moment where we were like, what are we doing? This is so stupid.
It was like a Top Gear episode.
Yeah, and it was just fun. It was a bit of a treat for the whole social media team really doing that video, because a lot of the time it's just, we're filming electrical work, you're filming on the fly, there's not that much planning that goes into it really. And they, like our editor and our cameraman, they really were pining to do something that was a little bit more high level and more produced. So we invested a little bit of budget into it, to really kind of try and produce something that would be a story and a bit more epic and with a bit more production value to it. And it was just fun to do, so I enjoyed it.
I was looking on attentively for after the first video you had to be continued, like, you know what I mean, and I was chomping at the bit to see the next video, which was quite clever. But how do you think it is to, stay I suppose, what would you say, produce regular content and stay relevant? Is there pressures that go along with that as well?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's a funny one, that, because when I first started, when I really got into the swing of doing YouTube, and it was just me filming everything on my phone and then an editor kind of chopping it all together, I was doing like 3 videos a week. Even when we had our cameraman actually come on board, like, we were filming every week. I think our cameraman was working for us 4 days a week. Just go back maybe 2 years. 4 days a week. We were filming like most of our jobs. It was nuts, the amount of content that we were putting out. 3 videos a week. It was like Monday, Thursday, Sunday, or something like that, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I can't remember, but it was a lot of content. But it just got too much, and we found that we were just focusing on quantity rather than quality. So we slowly, over the last couple of years, ramped down to like 2 videos a week, and then 1 video a week, and now it's actually 1 video every 2 weeks. But it enables us to put more planning into each video to try and craft something that people will really enjoy watching and that is relevant. And I think, to your point about being relevant, it is important, because we've always tried to be on the crest of the wave with the technology that's coming out that affects electricians, particularly now with the renewable space that we're quite involved in with solar and batteries. We're always looking at what's next, that's going to be interesting for installers, for customers.
In terms of the videos, coming out bi-weekly, I presume your projects are a lot larger now as well. So, it's kind of a story in itself. I presume those jobs that you're doing are taking maybe a week or 2 weeks to actually complete. So, it would probably make sense that you're doing it every 2 weeks as well.
Yeah, some of these projects that we're doing now are really bigger solar projects. So, we've got one that's a big ground mount system, and that will be, a couple of weeks' work, and we want to be able to showcase the whole project from start to finish. So that's going to be quite a lot of work just to showcase that from the beginning to end. And also, the funny thing is that because we get so much work from YouTube, whatever types of jobs we share, we get, like, the next week we get a load more leads like that coming in. So we've learnt to not share the jobs that we don't want more of, otherwise we're going to get loads of leads for stuff that we don't want to be doing. So now we're kind of trying to just show a lot more of the cream, like the best work that we really want more of, knowing that those, with the magic of the YouTube algorithm, the video will get pushed out to the kind of customers who want that work doing, and then we'll get more of that.
Yeah, and do you find now that the business has a bit of notoriety, that you've got clients pretty much all over the country looking for your services, and you find it very hard to fill those services rather with the manpower that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. We get inquiries every day from all over the country. So that's a challenge in itself. And we've kind of dealt with it in different ways over the years. At first, we were just saying, sorry, you're out of our area, we can't help. But it just seemed crazy to be turning away all of this potential work and not being able to help these customers who were looking for a decent electrician. So then we sort of started to try and find other good electricians in different parts of the country who we could partner with, or we could refer jobs to. And that's sort of a work in progress, really, that we're still trying to build up a bit of a network of sort of artisan style electricians in different parts of the country who we can genuinely trust that they'll work to our kind of standards, and do a bit of a partnership with them to help the customers get the good work done. And then for other projects where they're big enough and the customer's happy to pay extra for us to stay away and all that stuff, then we'll just price it like that, and the whole team will go and stay away for a week or 2 weeks and do the project. So it just depends on the scale of the project, really, and the budget. Usually if it's a bigger project that we can factor in staying away, we'll price it up to do that. Or if it's a smaller project where it just wouldn't make sense to stay away, then we'll get in touch with one of our partners in the area and see if they can help with it.
And I see you were on a trip away recently to Intersolar with Solux. How did that go?
Yeah, it was awesome. That was one of the really, every so often there's these moments where you're like, wow, pretty cool being a YouTuber. You get to do some cool stuff. And getting to go to Intersolar was that, because Anchor Solix sponsored us to go there, to be on their stand, to showcase their products on the channel. But we also got, like a fully paid trip for the whole team to basically go there, explore, see all the other stuff. So it was like a real win-win for us to be able to go and see that event, which normally would have cost a lot and wouldn't necessarily be worth for us to be able to budget to go there just for the sort of learning. So it was, that was an awesome experience, and we're getting more and more opportunities like that now, which is really nice to travel. There's some of the stuff that comes into my inbox every so often. I have to pinch myself. I got one yesterday that I can't really talk about at the moment, but I was just like, wow. So
it's a bit of validation, isn't it? Really,
it's not OnlyFans, is it?
Not yet. I've not made it that well. I've not made it that far yet. maybe when I want to retire.
Listen, Jordan, obviously, I keep mentioning there, going off to these trade shows, and especially the ones that are in Europe or further afield. Do you come across other technologies that might not have hit the UK market yet or the Irish market yet that just blows your mind?
Yeah, the renewable space is moving really fast at the moment. I did a video a week or so ago about just some of these game-changing technologies that are on the horizon with solar panels. We saw these solar panels that are basically just look like cladding that go on the outside of buildings, and they just look like these colored panels, different textures and colors. You can choose what variety you want, but they're actually like 98% of the efficiency of a normal solar panel. And essentially you could just cover your building in these things and generate electricity. So that's one thing that really kind of caught my eye. And then battery storage is really coming of age now, and bigger battery systems for commercial properties. There's a lot of clever stuff with EV charging as well, with like bi-direct charging, the idea of being able to run your house from your car. That's really going to be coming in the next sort of 6 to 9 months. I think that's going to suddenly become a real concept, and we're already getting customers now asking us about it, where they want to be able to have a small battery in the house, but then actually the biggest battery be the car that feeds the house. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think
Crazy.
it sounds better than the balcony hanging solar panels that I seen, where you can just plug it into the local socket. Did you
Yeah, I
see
don't know
those
if
ones?
they're
Yeah,
allowed in
yeah,
Ireland, but they're not allowed
Seems
in the UK yet. But in Germany, that's quite a common, popular thing, for apartment buildings.
yeah, I don't think we'd be seeing them over here now anytime soon. They're fairly strict over here as well, aren't they?
Oh, very strict on, yeah, definitely. You can't even hang like, a t-shirt out on the balcony. Never mind, never mind putting a solar panel out there. Like, but come here, Jordan. Day-to-day runnings of the business. I suppose this is just a cheeky question for myself. Do you find it hard to balance being on the tools and maybe getting off the
Yeah, it's a
tools?
really hard balance. I think every business owner probably finds the same when you start to come off the tools and you start to hire a team. It's that thing of like juggling and getting the right balance, because you go from this point where you're sort of doing everything to then you delegate a few things, but you still do a lot of the things, and then you slowly delegate more and more. And also being an electrician, having a passion for actually doing the work, is quite difficult and sometimes a bit soul destroying to just be sitting in front of a computer a lot of the day. Like my time now, to be honest, I'm mostly on the tools if I'm filming videos. Other than that, I'm either just popping out to site to see how the guys are getting on or whatever, or I'm just in the office, running things from the office. So it's quite a transition and it can be a challenge. I think the other thing is, though, if you want to grow a business, you have to take time to work on the business rather than in the business, and focusing on the bigger picture and getting systems into place and all of that takes a lot of time and effort, which you can't do if you're always just jumping onto the tools. So for me, I'm actually living in France now, and the advantage of that is that I can't jump out and start firefighting. I've had to build a team that can run the day-to-day, and then I'm here, and it means, okay, if something needs sorting out on site, the team are there, I train them, I trust them, they can deal with it, and that has actually forced me to sort of step back and focus on the bigger picture of the business, which has been good for the business ultimately, because it helps us to really grow in the right way, and helps me to focus on other things as well.
Yeah, and like you're saying, focusing on other things, and in the same breath, you're saying, keeping your business cogs greased and running smoothly, and would that have been a driving factor behind you developing Open Quote? Because with the way your business is being run, you've obviously seen the challenges that you've had to face, and then putting them out there into the real world, trying to help other people be able to run their business in the same sort of breath. So what was the sole focus behind Open Quote, and how do you see it helping
so
the industry?
Story with Open Quote is quite interesting, because last year, sort of middle of last year, I was wrestling with this thing where just gathering the information from customers quickly and easily was a real problem. I mean, it's a problem, I think, for every electrician, but on different levels. So you imagine, customer phones you, I'd like 5 light fittings changed or something. You don't want to go out to site to do a quote visit for 5 light things. So you've got to figure out as much information as you can to give an accurate quote without going to site. So you probably ask them some questions about, the old light fittings. What are they like? What are the new light fittings like? Are they those massive chandeliers with all the little sparkly things that take forever to put together, or are they just pendants? Maybe you ask for a photo. Yeah.
Or
maybe you ask for a photo of the existing lights and the new lights. Maybe you ask for a picture of the consumer unit to make sure that there's RCD protection and all of, it's safe. It's not just like a rewirable board or something like that. So you're gathering information from customers pretty much every time if you want to give them a quote that is accurate, and really give them the service that they deserve in terms of you turn up, you know what you're doing, you've got the right materials, and you can crack on with the job. And that, just for some light fittings, is already a little bit of a problem. But when you scale that up to fitting an EV charger or fitting a solar and battery system and all of the complex things that you've got to take into consideration with those type of projects, we were finding that we were playing email tag with people. You'd email them a list of questions, they'd reply to half of them but not the others, and they'd send some pictures but not all, and you spend sometimes weeks just emailing back and forth with customers just to gather enough information to know what they were really looking for. Or you do the same with the phone. You phone them up during the day when you're working, they're at work, they're not answering the phone, they phone back in the evening, they get the voicemail, you pick that up in the morning, and unless you're willing to work like all hours of the evening to kind of talk to customers and stuff, you just end up with a lot of wasted time with this back and forth. So I was looking for something, or I was looking to build something that would do a lot of that hard work for us and kind of ask the right questions to customers, gather the pictures and everything, and bring it all into one place for us, like a kind of a job sheet type thing, where we could just look at it and go, oh yeah, great, you want 20 solar panels, a Tesla Powerwall, this is where you want the Powerwall to be, this is a picture of your consumer unit, this is where we can put the earth rod, here's a little video of the outside of the house so that we know what it's like for scaffolding, what 3 words location, so we can pin your exact roof and we know which house it is. And there was nothing out there that could do that. There was a few tools that sort of had a go, but they didn't really do it how I wanted it. And I was like, I'm just going to build something myself. And I tried to get like a freelancer on Upwork to build this thing, and it was just an absolute disaster, and it was costing me quite a lot. And then somebody just reached out to me who called Martin, who's now my co-founder, one of my co-founders at OpenQuote, and he said, I've got this idea, I'd love to run it past you. And he showed it to me. I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I've been wanting to build. And it was just perfect timing. So he said, look, I really need somebody who knows the technical side of things to build this right so that it will help electricians, and also somebody who can help me to market it. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. I'm happy to do that. And so we've just been building it together, and we've been doing it really on the low down. It's just a small team of us. There's 4 of us. We've been doing it on the low down over the last sort of 9 months. And then in the last few months, as we've got to a stage where like it's already working really well for Artisan, now we're starting to roll it out to other people and open it up to other installers who can also benefit from it. And there's loads of opportunities for the future growth. We want to integrate more things into it. One thing that we've just added is building insights. So it will now pull in data, third-party data from different sources online about the property. So it will tell you, for example, what the valuation of the property is. It will tell you how many stories it is, what the estimated EPC is, loads and loads of bits of information, but just gives you a nice overview of like, oh, it's a £5 million house. Great. We'll call that customer up quickly, because we want to really fast track those kind of leads, and really look after them, or other things that you might not normally take into consideration. So a little bit of my time now every week is spent working for a software startup, which is a whole new learning experience for me, but it's been really cool. I've been enjoying it.
And do you see it being, or envisage it being, a one-stop shop for everything? That the contractor can go onto that website or that app and pretty much do everything off that, so you could link to wholesalers maybe, or suppliers that would do the products that you need, or you could even right down to even staff management, even with payroll and stuff like that. Do you envision that in the future, where it's a one-stop shop for everything for a contractor to be able to use?
I'll never say never, but our aim is not really to be like a full CRM and replace things like job management softwares and stuff. It's really to handle that bit at the start that the CRMs and job management softwares don't cover, which is the getting the information, the sort of journey, the customer journey, and getting the information from the customer to the installer in the smoothest possible way, so that when that lead comes into your job management software or your CRM, it's it's not just a one-liner that says Mrs. Miggins wants 2 double sockets. It's here. This is the house. This is how much it's worth. This is pictures of what she wants. This is her consumer unit, and you've got a full information. And you can go. You know what? I can bang a quote out for that in 10 minutes because I've got all the information I need. So that's what we're focusing on at the moment. We're not trying to I've realized how massive amount of work it is to build something like a full job management software. It's huge, and I don't think trying to take on any of those established job management softwares is necessarily what we're trying to achieve, but it's really just about conquering that missing piece at the start of the journey. But also there's other things that we're looking at. So like I said to you about building out a network of installers. One of our ideas is, we've got all of our installers who are on OpenQuote now, and like us, many of them may get leads that are outside of their area. So can we build up some kind of referral network within OpenQuote where we can pass leads to each other? That's something that we're thinking about as a future feature. And obviously, if it works for electricians, it can work for plumbers, it can work for heating engineers, it can work for lots of different trades who have to ask questions and gather information from customers before starting a job. So that's kind of what we're thinking about with the journey of OpenQuote at the moment.
And Jordan, what's the procedure with OpenQuote? So does the customer get a link sent to them? And is that where they can upload all their information and pictures, videos,
Yeah, so it works in that way that you can send a link to them in any way, shape or form that you want. So when you sign up to OpenQuote, you get your own OpenQuote page with your logo and branding and everything, and it will have your services on there, and the customer chooses which service they want. So at the moment, we've just got the sort of high ticket services, shall we say, so solar, battery, EV chargers, EICRs. We've got Rewire Journey that's going to be coming soon as well that we're going to be adding in. And the idea is they choose what service they want, and then it just asks them step by step the questions that you would normally ask them. It asks for the pictures. For solar, for example, it asks them for a copy of their electric bill as well. It asks them for the stuff like gas and water bonding pictures. Things like have they had an EICR in the last 5 to 10 years? If so, can we have a copy of it? All of these things that can just arm you with more information, and it does it in a really customer friendly way. So they can do it on their mobile phone. They can just walk around, follow through the pictures. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. Snap the pictures, videos, upload it all, and then it comes through to your dashboard as an installer as a lead, and you can click on it and you can see all the information. Or we can integrate it with your CRM. So if you use Simpro or ServiceMate or Zoho or various things like that, we can integrate it with those platforms if they've got an API and bring that lead straight into your CRM with all of the attachments and information aside it.
And in the case where you might have like an existing customer coming to you or a referral from someone else, would I, as the contractor, would I be able to, navigate them towards using the OpenQuote to get me my information back? Or like, as you said, it's probably a little bit unprofessional going back and forward with text messages and emails, gathering small bits of information. I think it'd be highly beneficial for the likes of me to be able to say, well, we're on OpenQuote. I'm going to send you on the link, follow the step-by-steps for the job that you need, and you can upload everything you need or everything you want done on OpenQuote. Am I right?
That's absolutely
have I got
right,
the system right
and you
there?
can even send individual links. Like if you know that they want solar, you can send them the link that takes them straight to the solar journey. What we do is we put the main OpenQuote link on all of our socials, in all of our YouTube video descriptions, anywhere that customers find us, essentially, so that it takes them straight to that. It's just like a link that says get a quote. They click on that, and then they choose which service they want, and they go through the journey. And of course, there's always going to be, no system's completely foolproof, so there's always going to be people who don't want to go through and give you all of that information. Maybe, you know, sometimes it's elderly people or something like that, and they've not got a mobile phone that they can take pictures with, but that's fine. They can skip some of the pictures and questions if they want to, or they can just give us a call and we can talk them through the questions over the phone. But for, you know, I'd say for like 80% of customers, it works perfectly. And the other nice thing is if they don't fill out certain bits of information, it sends them an email reminder with a link to just add those bits of information afterwards. So sometimes people are at work, they're on their lunch break Googling, you know, I want to get solar installed. And then they start going through the journey and they realize, oh, I need to be at home to finish this. So they get home, they click on the link, then they go through and they finish it off. And it sends them reminders on a Saturday morning, for example, when most people are at home and active. So we get a really good success rate with people finishing the journey when they get that reminder on a Saturday morning just to finish it off.
Really good. And I think one of the main things is you're starting on the right foot with the customer, because you're getting I suppose, a more accurate quotation done for them. So basically they're not just telling they want an EV charger and it's a set price. You know, you get the pictures, you're going to know how the length of the cable run, you're going to need how many cleats you'll need, you know, how many men you need, more importantly, and how much time. So you can give them a more accurate quote. So you're not going out and saying, look, we've charged you €1,000 for this, but actually it's going to cost you 2,000 because we've had to be here 2 days, and then we needed to do a bit of fuse board work, we had to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
I
You
think
know,
it's
it
quite
just
clever.
solves a lot of problems for installers, but also for customers. And it enables, you know, we live in this world now where the world of Uber and stuff, where people just want, like, they want instant responses and they would just want to get stuff done. People are used to using apps and software and things. So it kind of makes sense to bring the electrical industry into the 21st century a little bit and give customers what they want, you know, the opportunity to just tell us in thorough detail at a time that's convenient for them exactly what they want, and then allow us to deal with that inquiry quickly because we've got all of the information.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing where that goes and grows for yourself and for the industry, Jordan. Just taking it back a bit, I put up a story on Instagram just during the week here, just to let our followers and listeners know that you're coming on and if they had any questions for you. And one of the main ones that came in was just to pick your brain on the state of the industry within the UK at the minute. And I know that you mentioned there that you have a team of electricians working for you that you're fairly confident with, where you can, travel to France and, live in France and be quite comfortable that your business is being ran the way you want it to be ran. But a few of the comments coming in where, right down to the small companies up to the big companies are finding it hard at the minute to retain staff or hire the correct staff. And I was just wondering, what do you think is the main culprit for that within the UK at the minute, not being able to either retain staff or even try and hire the correct people?
There's definitely, a skills shortage. That's something that I think there has been in the industry for a while. And it's such a weird thing. I find it hard to get my head around sometimes because there's so many people who want to get into the industry. Like, I get emails in my inbox every week from people saying, I want to become an electrician. A lot of them, they want to retrain later in life, they want a career change or whatever. And it's quite I think it's quite a hard industry to get into in that way, which is good because hopefully, we're stopping people from just doing these like 4-week courses and then suddenly being able to get out and do electrical work. But at the same time, we've got this problem where there is a skills shortage. It's hard to find good people. So I know for a lot of companies, recruiting is one of their biggest challenges. And we're quite fortunate because of our following that if we want to recruit, we just put some social media posts out and we've got 20 CVs in the inbox the next day, and we can interview people who've already been watching us for years and know what is expected of doing our kind of work. But not everyone's got that. I mean, I have gone through the whole agency route before trying to recruit people, and it's an absolute nightmare. So yeah, that is that is a challenge. And then the other thing I think you've got is this kind of race to the bottom thing with some of these big national companies coming in and slapping in EV chargers for next to nothing, slapping in solar on people's roofs, doing a rubbish job, doing it super cheap, and that makes it very hard to compete as well. So they're sort of driving the prices down by this sort of mass market, low quality approach. They're also training people who aren't electricians to fit EV chargers. So I spoke to somebody the other day who does some of these training courses, and he's like, we're getting these guys come in who they're coming in to do a 2-day EV course. They're not electricians. They're like meter fitters or something like that, and they're just being taught how to clip a bit of cable and stick an outside consumer unit next to the meter box. And the result is bad quality, but it makes it harder for the good electricians out there who want to do a good job, because customers don't always know the difference between a good job and a rubbish job.
They just see the bottom line, don't they?
Yeah, but you see these meter fitters, and it's sort of, in Ireland at the minute, it's like a Groundhog Day with apprentices as well, where they get wrapped up in these big sites. Like, so you might have the likes of an Intel site where they're building a new fab and it'll take 5 years to build, and you're getting apprentices stuck on doing cable tray for, the guts of the whole job, and then they're moving on to the next one doing the same thing. And we've had apprentices reach out to myself and Keith, sort of complaining about that. By the time they get to even their off the job phase here in Ireland, they're about a year on site. They go off the job, they do a bit of workshop training, they're back on the job, off the job again, between 1 till 7 phases in a sense. And they're learning nothing new every time they go back out on the site, because they're just being used as dog bodies. And by the time they come to try and get their qualification, and they want to move into the likes of, domestic work or commercial work in a sense, or even renewables, by the time they get hired by like the likes of yourself, Keith, or even if it was you, Jordan, hiring them, you can tell the difference between somebody who has been working with it through their whole apprenticeship rather than somebody else who has a desire to work in it. And I think it's very, very sad for somebody to spend that amount of time of their life and their career, in a sense, to be training themselves up and then still not being adequately trained with the correct experience to be able to continue their career. And then they end up falling back into those jobs then, which is the likes of, meter changers, or people who are just going out changing EVs for the likes of, I know there's a certain company in the UK at the minute that's doing it, and they're hiring these people. And I think they fall into that, not on their own, want, but it's just where they end up, because that's all they've got left for themselves, because they haven't been trained correctly.
Yeah, it's a real problem. I think the industry, the way it's going, is more and more specialist, like more and more niche stuff, and people sticking within their niche. I mean, we see it ourselves even with solar and battery. You start to do more and more solar and battery jobs, and you realise these jobs are, they're nice jobs, it's bigger jobs, there's more money in it. So you naturally want to do more of those jobs and less of the normal electrical work. But then you find that obviously if we took on an apprentice now, they would mainly be doing solar and battery jobs every week, and then that limits the training. Ruben, who's our apprentice currently, is just about to start his 4th year in September. He's had a really good all-round apprenticeship, because he's, started from scratch, like doing little domestic jobs, doing EICRs and sockets and board changes and all that stuff. And then he slowly started to grow into doing EV chargers and now the solar and battery jobs, and he can do the whole package. But it's quite rare to find companies now who are big enough to do the whole package, and who are not just niching down into doing, one thing, or doing big projects like you mentioned with these kind of data centers and stuff like that, where they're just metal munching or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think the best thing to do if you want to get an apprenticeship is try and go out with like a local 1 or 2 man band, and try and get an apprenticeship with someone like that, because you're more likely to have a good all-round apprenticeship and get a bit more one-to-one attention than you would if you're just going to some big company.
Yeah, we had Jack Duignan, an electrician here in Ireland, on season 1. And like that, he's gone out on his own, quite similar to yourself, Keith. And he gave me a bit of an insight in the interview that I did with him about how he navigated his apprenticeship. So he went into his apprenticeship with the sole focus of being able to learn everything and anything he could get his hands on. So he did, I think, over a year with one company, and then when he realized that he'd reached his level of expertise with that company and the type of work that they were doing, he was putting his name back out on the market again to continue his apprenticeship elsewhere to learn something else within a different sector. And I think, unfortunately, that's how the industry has gone right now, because like what you mentioned, Jordan, companies are, single lining themselves into one sector, and they're not allowing apprentices to be able to, multitask in regards to, domestic installs, bit of second fix and solar and the likes. So I think he is somebody that, as the employer, you don't want to see that, because when you take on an apprentice, you want to be able to keep them with you and, learn them and mold them. But in a sense, he saw that he needed to be able to do what he had to do for himself. And I think in a way you have to put your hands up and say, look, fair play to him for doing that. And, it has worked out for him in a sense.
But we've seen it to people's detriment. Like, I've had, I think, 2 or 3 guys that have come from, multinational companies, and I've done their apprenticeships through them, and then they come to me and they're fully qualified, so on the top rate, but at the same time they can't wire a socket, and it's just like, how do you justify taking this qualified person on and pay them top wages? And like, this is something that they want to do. They want to expand their knowledge, but they've probably waited too long to do it. Like, we had an example on one of the other podcasts there where I had a guy working for me and he couldn't understand why you had to go to the nearest socket first and then, go from there on. I came back to a job. He claimed that he was a really good electrician and he could first fix this house. There was no problem. So I left him for 2 days with one of my other guys, and I came back and he'd wired to the furthest socket and start working his way back, because, as you know, Jordan, in Ireland we're mainly radials. We don't do a lot of ring circuits. So he couldn't understand that he was, affecting the readings because he's gone the long way around the house. Like, I literally had to rip out most of the cabling, but couldn't understand why he, wasn't going to make it with us,
the term electrician is a very broad term if you think about it, and when you actually niche down into like, what do you need to do, what specific individual jobs do you need to know how to do to be an electrician, that is like a huge list of different things. I mean, take like data, for example. A lot of electricians don't know how to terminate a Cat6 cable, wire put an RJ45 plug on or wire up a data socket or whatever. And yet that is more and more becoming a fundamental part of our work as everything is smart connected, and, inverters and batteries and EV chargers need hardwired Ethernet connections. So, that's just one example. But then you think on the other end of the spectrum, like doing commercial type work like cable tray and galvanized conduit and stuff. If you're a domestic sparky, like, to be honest, like, you asked me to put up some cable tray or bend some galv conduit, it will take me a long time because I've not done any in ages. And although I did learn to do it and I've done some of it over the years, I've not done any for a while, so I'm really rusty on that. So I suppose it'd be cool if we could have like there's electrician, but under that umbrella you have like, I'm an electrician who can do data. I can do, I'm specialist at this, and I've actually, got experience in doing it, a lot of it, not just done it every so often and I'm a bit rubbish and slow at it. It would be interesting if we could categorize things in that way.
Yeah, I only mentioned that I was having a conversation with an apprentice who's currently in doing their phase 4 here in Ireland at the minute. So that'll be the second off the job phase. And they mentioned to me that they actually bring them in and they do a bit of theory on solar, but it's not included on the test. So what you have is you have certain apprentices coming in who are not really interested in it because they just only want to concentrate on what's going to be involved in the test at the end of the phase, where you have other ones who really are interested in it because they know that that's what they want to move into as soon as they qualify. And they had a great opinion when they mentioned to me that, you know, at that point, like what you mentioned, it should be a specialist course in a sense where you should allow an apprentice to be able to go in and get an extra at least certificate or something on doing an extra test if they want to option into it or option out of it. So when you're coming out of your apprenticeship, you can come out of your apprenticeship with a certificate. You might not be qualified in actually doing solar in a sense, and you haven't actually worked physically with, you know, DC and stuff like that because you know the dangers of it, but you've done this course where you can actually hand it to an employer and say, look, I've actually gone and I've done a course where I've done a bit of theory on it and I've passed the theory on it, so I have that bit of extra drive to want to learn about it. So you know straight off the bat that this is somebody that is willing to take them on and actually work with them, you know.
Too much money in upskilling.
Yeah, that's
true.
it.
I think
it's the private courses that jump on this then, you know what I mean, and they start making their money out of it when it's all government-based training. I think, like what you said, Keith, it is all financial restrictions, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Jordan, for anybody who's listening to this podcast right now and, you know, feels that they're in a position, they might be working within a company and they might be thinking, I want to go out on my own, I want to try and make it for myself. And obviously, you know, everybody's journey is a bit different. But what advice could you give to somebody who was thinking about going out on their own right now and setting up a business for themselves?
I'd say just think it through and be prepared for a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of hard graft. You know, I think one of the best ways to punish yourself is by running your own business, but it's also really rewarding as well. You know, I mean, it is a roller coaster, and you've got to be prepared to just stick at it through thick and thin. You know, so it does take a certain kind of mentality, and if you're the kind of person who wants to just be able to go home after a day's work and switch off, then you're probably not the kind of person who is cut out to run your own business, because at least for the first few years, until you build it to the point where it can run without you, it's a hell of a lot of work. But that being said, you know, don't be put off by that. If you really are fired up and you want to do it and you're willing to put in the work, then it's a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, it's the age-old saying, isn't it? Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah, 100%. And Jordan, for anyone that doesn't know where to find you already, or about your businesses,
so
where do they go to find you?
Electrics, you can find us on YouTube. Search Artisan Electrics on YouTube. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, all of the social media platforms. And then OpenQuote, if you want to find out more about that, you can go to openquote.net or just Google OpenQuote and you'll find our website there.
Yeah. Cool. We'll stick those links into the show notes, and I guess before we let you go, we'll ask you the most important question, and that's to add one song to the season 3 Spotify playlist. Jordan, what would your song of choice be?
Well, you know what, I'm a bit of an old school guy, and I love a bit of Dire Straits. And recently, I've been listening to Telegraph Road quite a lot by Dire Straits. I don't know if you know that song, but it's just something so powerful about it, especially if you're driving along some country roads with that blaring away. So hopefully it's not on there already. That's the song that I'll add to your playlist.
No, it's a great addition.
Yeah, great addition, and look forward to hearing it for the first time. I'm not one for Dire Straits, but putting the playlist together sort of opens up mine and Keith's eyes to a bit of new music, so look forward to it.
Well, Jordan, it's been an absolute privilege having you on, and you've been a great sport.
No, 100%. And look, Jordan, we'll let you go and we'll play you out now to your song choice. Take it easy.
Thanks very much, Jordan.
Nice chat with you both.
Then came the churches, then came the schools, then came the lawyers, then came the roads, then came the trains and the trucks with their load, and the dirty old train. It was the telegraph road.
Right, Key. That's just about it for season 3, episode 10, the final episode.
Yep, it was thoroughly enjoyable, and I'd like to say a big thank you to our guests on this episode, Amy and Jordan.
Yeah, and if you liked what you heard, come back next season for more overload chat and guest interviews.
I'd like to say a massive thank you to our sponsors, Robust Lighting, for their continued support throughout the season.
Yeah, and head over to wherever you get your podcast, give us a like and a follow to be notified when the next season drops. Take it easy, everyone.
Thanks for listening.